Hello and welcome, X Factory friends and family. This is another Paul Sinclair voiceover video. And for this week's video, I figured since last week we saw Ryan Doreen driving my short course truck, it was about time for me to show you guys me driving my short course truck and give you my own opinions and kind of insights as to what was going on during the race. So to do that, we're going back to the unofficial short course nationals that were held at RC Madness a little over a month ago. For this video, I have me driving my SCX60CF in round 1 of qualifying. Put in a pretty good race and some interesting things to talk about. Before we dive in, I wanted to make kind of 2 points. One, I find that at any kind of bigger race, almost anything other than a club race, I'm always nervous for the first race. Not the first round, not the first qualifying round, but the very first, the first race that I'm on the clock. My knees are shaking, my hands shake. I'm always very nervous, and I've learned that to kind of compensate for that, the very first time on the track, on the clock for me at a big race, I'll always drive easy. I don't want to say slow, but just drive a little easy. Try to keep it a little more in the center of the track than I might. And just try to find a groove. I really work in the first race to just find a groove, get in that race mentality, that race mode, and just enable myself to run. And I find if I can turn in a good first qualifier, it really sets the tone for the whole rest of the race for me. And whatever car is next in the first round or going into the second round of qualifying, I'll be a lot more confident and just have a lot easier time of it. Second, and more specific to this race, RC Madness is an outdoor, kind of 8-scale, blown-out, loamy dirt track. A lot of fun to race on. Great short course layout they put in. It was a really fun event. But I had planned. They were kind of grooming and watering the track before the two-wheel drive mod short course guys ran, and I had planned on. I'd spent Friday practice testing on J-Concept's Double D rear tires with the new IFMAR 3D front tires, and it was really smooth. However, the skies were kind of overcast for Saturday's qualifying, and I got to watch teammate Chris Christo drive his SCX60CF in the very first heat, round 1, race 1. And he took a good TQ time, but just watching his car go around and the way it was handling the dirt, and I knew what tires he'd run on Friday and what tires he was running. I think he was on some blockades Saturday morning. I ran back during race 2, after seeing Christo's race. I ran back during race 2 and threw on some J-Concept subcultures just to handle the extra little loam and loose dirt that was on the surface. And as you'll see, I think that comes into play. We'll comment on that in a bit later. So anyway, going in, start down the straightaway. Like I said, you can kind of see the loamy. You can see the dirt is really dark. There's almost some standing water here and that triple in the back. So there's a lot of traction out there, but there's a lot of dirt that you got to get through. Unfortunately, in the opening lap, I was kind of held up by that orange truck a bit, and that allowed Team Losi's Ryan Dunford, he's in this yellow truck, you can see coming into the back of the screen there, just disappeared, to catch up to me. He started right behind me, and talk about being nervous for your first run. You know, I got one of the other factory drivers starting right behind me in this race, and as you can see, he's catching up quite a bit. So as I said, I kept with my mentality, though. I knew that I just had to find my groove, run my race, and put in a good time for myself. I saw that he was probably faster than me, and I just in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, if he catches up to me, it's IFMAR qualifying, I'll move over and let him by. I'm going to do my best not to let that happen, of course, but if he does pass me, then I'm going to really push it and try to tuck it in behind him and just follow him, because I know he's going to put in a good time. So that's what's going through my head right now. Starting to settle into the truck a little bit. What do you say? And then here I caught a big break. If you see at the bottom of the screen there, his truck, I guess he popped a turnbuckle on his new 22 SCT. This was one of the debut races for that truck, and I don't know, I think a steering tie rod or maybe in the drag link, I'm not sure where or what happened, but he popped a turnbuckle and he was out for the race. And so that was a bit of a load off my mind, and allowed me to focus on my own driving and my own race and kind of get into it. You'll see here as we cross this double, I like that little ski jump in the middle of the track, because they're a lot of fun to drive to, because you really get to slam your truck into the surface of them. But then the key is to get on the brakes while your truck is kind of going up the surface and try to get as little air as possible so that you downside it really close to where you took off and you can accelerate off the backside of it. We're catching up to X Factory family member Joe Sullivan here, and he's going to groan when he sees this video because right here he lets me by and he gets a really good run off that second double and takes me out. And I mean, that's racing. What are you going to do? You know, I obviously wish he hadn't done that, but he apologized profusely to me after the race. I know he felt terrible for doing that, and it is what it is. No real harm done. Probably a second or two lost, but we're gonna keep going, keep punching. I got a lot of open track in front of me now. What do you say? As we get to the mid portion of the race, I know that besides that little incident there, I've had a pretty good run, and I really have, you know, like I said, I was just trying to find my groove and put it in the middle of the track and run a good race, and so far I've done that. I'm really happy on the driver's stand. What do you say? Around the 3-minute mark here, around halfway through the race, the announcer called me in first place, and in fact he called me, he said my pace was a 8:5:33, which was 2 seconds off Chris Christo's TQ. So I knew that I had a good run going and a good shot to put in a top time for the round. We were doing FTD qualifying, I should say, not round by round, but still it's important to get that good first run in. And so for the last half of the race here, the last few laps, I really tried to just get in the throttle and pick up some time and see if I could beat Christo's TQ and see where that placed me. I think there were 8 heats, so like 85, 90 two-wheel drive short course trucks. So I'm in heat 3, and I knew that if I could take that TQ, I'd have a good shot of being up there early on in the race. Also going through my head though, so while I'm thinking about all that racing, I'm also trying to analyze my truck and figure out what I can change, what needs to be better for the next race, how I can go faster in round 2. And the one thing I've noticed is that my track is lacking consistent side bite. And this is why I mentioned those subcultures earlier. The subculture is a really tall tire, and it does a good job of biting in through this loose, loamy dirt. But it also folds over. The pins, with it being as tall as they are, like even if you put a really hard foam in it, the pins want to fold over, and the back of the truck can feel kind of wallowy. They did provide really good forward traction. I could really squeeze the trigger and get my 6.5 going as well as I wanted. But I lacked, like I said, I lacked that consistent side bite through the corner. I would point out to you here at the end of the straightaway, I have to slow down a little bit and drive in gingerly, take a really broad racing line instead of carrying more the speed I wanted to. I had to be off it a little bit to make sure that the truck didn't spin out. I did think it was good through the switchback section, doing those little double-doubles right there. Right there, it carried pretty good speed. But then through this broad left-hand infield 180, you can see it got us a little out of shape there, and I'm just not carrying the speed that I want to around there. So that's all going through the back of my head as I'm really trying to lay in some hot laps and finish up the race. As I cross the line here, it turns out I ran an 8 laps in I think 5:31 to put me 2 seconds up on, 8 laps 5:29. I'm sorry, to put me 2 seconds up on Christo and take that round TQ so far. I would end up I think 4th or 5th for the round overall. So pretty good job, especially considering, like I said, my nerves going into it and the tires that were a little squirmy in the back. For round 2, though, I went to the J-Concepts Goosebump tire in the rear, and I put the double Ds that I was originally going to run in the back, I put those up front to help smooth out, give it nice consistent steering. And then the big setup change I made was to lower the truck's transmission. I had some 60,000 spacers in there, and I just took them out and put the transmission flat on the transmission cradle. And as we talk about in our setup manuals and setup sheets and whatnot, lowering the transmission is going to give you more side bite, but it's going to let the truck go through bumps better. As you can see, the truck this track gets a little rutted up, but at the expense of forward bite. The lower transmission isn't going to drive the truck forward as well. But I knew that, like I said, I had good forward bite already. I knew that the Goosebumps would provide great traction in round 2, and so by lowering the transmission, I got some extra side bite too, and wound up improving by 5 or 6 seconds in round 2 to take the overall TQ, and also had one of the fastest laps in round 2. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you next time.